You're not crazy. Everything really is more expensive. A few years ago, this amount of money could buy a lot. A shopping cart full of groceries, a tank of fuel, a night out with friends, maybe even a little left over at the end of the month. Today, that same amount of money seems to disappear much faster. Food costs more, fuel costs more, rent costs more, electricity costs more. Even things that used to feel cheap somehow feel expensive now. And if you've ever looked at a receipt and wondered whether prices have gone crazy, you're not alone. Millions of people around the world feel exactly the same way. So what happened? Why does it feel like our money buys less than it used to? Some people blame companies. Others blame politicians. Others blame wars, global events, or supply chain problems. And while all of those things can play a role, none of them tells the whole story. To understand what's really happening, we need to understand one simple idea: money. What exactly is money? Most people think of money as wealth, but money isn't wealth. Money is a tool that helps people exchange value. To see why that's important, imagine a tiny island. On this island, there are only 10 people. Together, they produce 10 apples every day. And to make trading easier, the island uses 10 coins. Each apple costs 1 coin. Simple. 10 apples, 10 coins. Everything is balanced. Now imagine that overnight, somebody creates 10 additional coins. The island now has 20 coins. But there's a problem. There are still only 10 apples. The amount of food hasn't changed. The amount of goods hasn't changed. The amount of work hasn't changed. Only the amount of money has changed. Now people have more coins competing for the same 10 apples. And when more money chases the same amount of goods, prices rise. Instead of 1 coin per apple, the price might rise to 2 coins. The apples didn't become more valuable. The money became less valuable. That process is called inflation. Inflation is the gradual loss of purchasing power. In simple terms, it means your money buys less than it used to. And inflation isn't limited to apples. It affects food, fuel, housing, transportation, clothing, electronics, almost everything. But here's where things get interesting. Most people think inflation is always bad. The truth is more complicated. In fact, a small amount of inflation is considered normal. Most economies actually aim for it. Why? Because a small amount of inflation encourages spending and investment. Think about it. If prices are expected to rise slightly next year, people are more likely to buy things today. Businesses are more likely to invest. Workers are more likely to ask for raises. Economic activity keeps moving. In moderation, inflation can be healthy. The problem begins when inflation grows faster than incomes. Imagine your salary increases by 2%. Sounds good. But if prices increase by 8%, you're actually worse off. You may be earning more money, but that money buys less. And that's exactly what many people have experienced in recent years. Now let's talk about why things feel especially expensive today. The first reason is housing. In many places, the number of people looking for homes has grown faster than the number of homes being built. When demand rises faster than supply, prices rise. The second reason is energy. Modern economies run on energy. Fuel powers transportation. Transportation moves goods. And when energy becomes more expensive, the cost spreads through the entire economy. The third reason is supply chains. Most products travel long distances before reaching consumers. A simple item might require materials from one country, manufacturing in another, and shipping through several others before arriving at a store. When those systems are disrupted, costs increase. The fourth reason is global events. Wars, pandemics, natural disasters, and political instability can reduce production and increase uncertainty. Less supply combined with steady demand often leads to higher prices. And then there's something many people overlook: population growth. As populations grow, more people compete for housing, resources, services, and goods. If production doesn't keep pace, prices rise. But even with all these factors, there's one reason why rising prices feel so painful. Wages often don't keep up. If your income rises at the same speed as prices, inflation is annoying but manageable. If prices rise much faster than your income, every purchase starts to feel heavier. Every trip to the grocery store becomes a reminder. Every fuel stop becomes a reminder. Every monthly bill becomes a reminder. That's why so many people feel like they're running faster but not getting ahead. Because in many cases, they are. Now here's the most important thing. You're not imagining it. You're not bad with money. You're not alone. Things really are more expensive. But understanding why matters. Because once you understand the forces behind rising prices, you stop seeing inflation as some mysterious economic term. You begin to see how money moves through the economy, how supply and demand shape prices, how global events affect your daily life, and how financial decisions made far away can eventually affect the price of bread, fuel, and housing. The world is complicated, but the logic behind it doesn't have to be. And that's exactly what we'll be exploring here on Sticky Logic Studio. Big ideas, simple explanations, one question at a time.